All right, y'all, Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Here we go with all this stuff today, and we are loaded. Yesterday got a little slow. It got a little slow. It was sort of a lull in all the activity, and there's so many stories today for us to try to wrap our heads around. We're going to do them one at a time, as we always do. Real quick, let me just start with a very brief weather update, as we tend to do when the weather's crazy like this. Pipe breaking, deep cold this weekend for us, and some of the forecasters are still throwing a little bit of possibility of snow toward this part of Alabama, maybe Friday night into Saturday. Doesn't look too major, and it doesn't look icy. It may just be the fun stuff if we get any at all. There's no consensus on it, but anytime you hear the S word in the forecast when weather has been like this, it's going to get some attention, and clearly it has this afternoon. If there are any updates on that, of course, y'all know how we do it. We'll keep you updated at the top of each hour. And then other things in the news. I'm going to start with some of the more recent stuff. We have some big picture things to tackle today too. And one of the things that started happening right around lunch today is there was an FBI raid on a big elections office over in Fulton County, Georgia. Hello. Finally getting some action over there, as we full well know all the shenanigans and the cheating and everything that happened over in Fulton County, Georgia. I'm convinced, and I've been convinced since that election in 2020, that they stole the state of Georgia in Fulton County, probably right at the State Farm Arena. We even know where it happened. They had to sneak ballots in the middle of the night. It's one of the polling locations, if you'll remember, that suspiciously faked a water leak so they could close the polls, run off the observers and the media, and then truck in some ballots in the middle of the night. All that stuff was known. And the thing about the election challenge cases, there were lots of dynamics, just to revisit some of that for a minute. One, none of the cases that were brought to challenge these elections between the election and January 6th, none of those cases were ever actually heard according to their merits. Most of them, if tossed, were thrown out just on the surface and the standing issue particularly alone. In other words, did the plaintiffs have a right to challenge the election? Now, since then, we've had some Supreme Court rulings that indeed showed that candidates have standing in congressional elections to make these challenges when they suspect malfeasance. But Georgia, all along, we had disappearing voter registration. We had disappearing election records. They just destroyed some of the Fulton County records. So I don't know what they could get after all this time that has not been hidden already or destroyed or disruptive, but maybe they know what they're up to and they're going to revisit this issue. And it should happen. It should absolutely happen. I talked about it the other day. It's one of the things that cost Mo Brooks the Senate race was when he uttered the phrase about it's time to get some consultant told him to say, we got to move on past the 2020 election, because that was the popular squishy Republican thing to do. Just like now, some people have gone squishy on ICE and deportations because of the optics in the last week. Some people just don't have the nerve to fight. I'm not saying that about Mo. I'm just saying generally with the consultant class and the people that stay in the middle of the road. So there was a lot of chatter. And I remember where he did it. He did it in Coleman at that big rally. And the thing is, that was always wrong. It's just to compare it, and it's not a murder, but the country suffered greatly because of the fraud in that election. You wouldn't go to a murder scene and say, well, there's no point in investigating now. The body, that person's dead. We can't bring them back to life. It's not going to do any good. So let's just move on. You got to investigate crimes. And if we don't restore integrity to these elections, and that means going after this stuff that's still out there and actually piecing together this case. And perhaps, cynically, maybe that's what some of the folks are doing with the timing of this raid in Fulton County being right there with the SAVE Act, with the SAVE Act just sitting there floundering in the middle of the United States Senate with the Senate Majority Leader sitting on his hands and not willing to have the courage to step up and push this through to get some not nationalized election, but nationalized standards. So we all have some sense that if we do the right thing here in Alabama, they can't steal it in Georgia, or they can't steal it in Colorado, or in some of these other blue states that are stuffing ballots. Now, part of what they've been doing, and this is all about the future of this country, it really is. The direction of this country depends on the integrity of these elections. And so in some states, you've got illegals voting that shouldn't be voting, and that needs to be fixed. Some of those illegals are getting deported, and that'll certainly solve the problem, but some of their names are still being used. We're finding duplicity on the voter rolls all over the place. Even today, it's 2026, and we've got the midterms coming up, and we're going to run out of time to make changes to the election structure if some of this stuff doesn't get done now. There's a clock running on it. Courts are not, anything that's done to reform in the states is going to get challenged in the courts. That's going to take a while to adjudicate. Some of the courts are going to stick by these deadlines and look for any excuse to keep things as they are, with gigantic holes in the security of our system. Mail-in balloting is one of the worst. Not many civilized nations even do it anymore. Even the French dropped mail-in voting, I think, back in the 70s because it's not legitimate and it's completely insecure. So, yes, I can harp on that all the way to 6 o'clock, but I'm glad to see whatever they're doing. We don't know what the fruit of this raid in Fulton County is going to be, but I rub my hands in anticipation. If you can see me on the YouTube channel, you can see me rubbing my hands as we get cranked up here today. So that's one of the stories that is being talked about this afternoon. The other one, I guess I got to go back to last night. I didn't even know this happened till the middle of the night. This Ilhan Omar incident, one of the more laughable things since Jussie Smollett. This complete whack job, as by now you know, jumped up and squirted something on her, and then, of course, got tackled by this mountain of a bodyguard that she had ready to go. And the whole thing, her reaction, none of it seemed legit. I mean, you get a sense of these things, and clearly this guy's not some MAGA person. I mean, look at him. I mean, we know what we look like. We know how we act. We can spot one of us a mile away. We can spot it when the feds are dressing up like Trump supporters in the middle of riots, and we can spot it with some wall-eyed Yahoo is playing the game. So this guy's got a really interesting background. His wife is a nut job left-wing lunatic that's a big supporter of Omar. Some people are speculating that this may have to do with her and that they've gone through some nasty divorce and he hates Omar because of his ex-wife. I don't know. Things happen. Guys get crazy, especially over women. We don't know if he was paid, put up, but Omar reacted as if she knew it was coming, like it was completely set up. And maybe he didn't know she knew it was coming, but somebody knew that was happening. The whole scene was just ridiculous. And I have laughed since late last night. I had some insomnia last night, so I wake up, happen to turn all this stuff on, and then I couldn't stop reading about it because it was just funny as all hell. So, but apparently what she got squirted with, that's the other thing, was apple cider and vinegar. Now, that's nasty. Have you ever smelled that stuff? Blech. Who would want that on you? But she appeared to know that it wasn't dangerous by the way she reacted and everybody around her. So we'll see if there anything else concrete comes of that. And I don't know that there's anybody in this country, unless you got 3 grocery sacks on your head for the Democrats, or you're an anti-Trumper to the point where you actually believe that had anything to do with anything but her desperation in a moment where she is straight cold busted, stealing money through fake businesses. And again, not to give her a pass, but to broaden out the story, there's a lot of people in that town doing very similar stuff, trying to legitimize money laundering through phony businesses. Now, on the winery, let's just stick with this for a minute as we get set up here today. On that winery, good Lord, that thing, not only did it not exist and it didn't produce wine, as they claimed in some publication that they won some gold awards or something. And no one can substantiate that. Well, then suddenly what was on the record about this winery just disappeared. I mean, it just disappeared overnight. There's some sort of internet sleuths that keep looking into these matters. And so all the business records, social media presence, all of that got wiped in the last 48 hours when the story broke. Why would they do that? No, clearly it had to be the people in control of the entity, whatever entity it was, whatever social media presence they were, they had the passwords to the accounts. Why would they go and just wipe all this stuff? I don't know. I mean, you can speculate that anything you've put on the record that's falsely on the record, you got to hide the evidence. You'd rather just pretend it was there and then you sold it. I don't know what their story's going to be. But just the wine thing alone. And then somebody made a point I didn't even catch. I got to admit it. How did this get over my head? She's a devout, avid, obviously dresses in her Muslim decor every single day. What? Have you ever heard of a Muslim that owned an alcohol establishment? No, you have not. That's a weird thing in and of itself. And I know her husband may be disconnected to that, but There it is. And so I believe, out of sheer desperation, just like Smollett, this woman's gotten used to a lot of attention. Now the attention's turned negative. She's in very serious legal trouble and was trying to just somehow make herself a victim or a martyr, because that's the world we live in. People fake hate attacks all the time. Most hate attack filings, this is a fact. I can't remember where I got this, but I picked up on it in the last year on some FBI crime statistics. Most of these people, especially the race hoaxes that do these Jussie Smollett style attacks, are a large majority are completely false. It's close to 90%. I don't remember the exact percentage, so I won't quote it right now. We just had one over in Mississippi where a young man sadly and tragically hanged himself. Oh, it's just a horrible story at an HBCU college, I'm pretty sure, over there. And suddenly people tried to turn that into a lynching incident. It wasn't a lynching incident. The poor kid, whatever he's going through is what he went through. But we continue to fake reality. We just fake reality. And then that gets back to Minnesota and all that's happening there. Now, the headline there, I'm just going to blow through some of these headlines and then we'll play catch up. The headline over in Minnesota today, I guess we'd say up in Minnesota today, is Pam Bondi's on the ground. They just announced the arrest of 16 people that have been part of attacking our police officers. I'm going to repeat this, and it just bears repeating, and I understand the people that are sympathetic over last weekend's shooting incident. I really do. My wife and I had a really interesting discussion about that today, too. I get that it looks bad and it feels bad, and it feels wrong and it looks wrong perhaps in some ways. But what does the law say, and how is the law going to read this thing? And I don't doubt that there's probably some civil cases that'll be filed against these officers. I really feel bad for these officers. They're put in an impossible situation. They're attacked every day, harassed, insulted. They even go to the trouble, they're trying to get in their heads. The whistles that you hear blowing are a tactic that was actually developed decades ago. It creates a response mechanism where it drives up cortisol. I mean, it's irritating, and they're doing it to get in the heads of these officers to provoke shootings like this. They go outside their hotels and bang on pots and pans all night to try to keep them awake and deprive them of sleep. It's pure harassment. And here's the thing. It is organized. It is funded. It's planned. It's targeted. And this guy, this everybody's calling him a nurse. He was part of that. He was one of the militants that signed up for it. There's some evidence today he was in those Signal chat rooms getting his instructions. Every time ICE shows up in a sector, they deploy their militants that are already pre-located in that sector. They've got watchers. They've got supply lines. They got lawyers on standby. They've got members of the government involved in it. And it's just wrong. All that's wrong. That is more of an insurrection than anything that would have remotely happened on January the 6th because of the coordination of it, the sustainability of it, the violence of it, and what they're doing to these federal officers. It occurred to me today, just in that same vein, because we've had incidents similar to this over the history of this country, and even before this country. Little history lesson, and then we'll move on and get the break in here. One of the flashpoints that got this country going, one of the things that really sparked the revolution in this country was the Boston Massacre. Do y'all know about that? One of the best depictions of it you will ever see is in the HBO series about John Adams. And ironically, I went to Boston right after that came out, and I'd just seen it and made a trip up there. And you get off one of the subway stops down on State Street, and when you come up out of the subway, you're in the building where this happened. The old State House is where this happened. So here's what happened. A mob of Americans, I guess they weren't Americans at the time, anti-loyalists, I suppose you would call them, attacked some British officers that were standing guard outside the State House. They were in, the redcoats were in their uniforms, and they were hitting them with, they put clam shells into ice balls like snowballs to make them more dangerous, and started pelting the officers and insulting them and charging them. And so with that assault, these guys turned their muskets on them. Now, the riders weren't armed with muskets, but the British soldiers reacted with muskets and killed a couple of them and shot a couple of others. And it was an outrage. It was a national outrage. It created a flashpoint. And it was a dividing line between the loyalists and the separatists right there in Boston. It was one of the things that drove the people. They thought it was excessive force. Well, it turned out a court cleared them. And you know who got them cleared? You know who got them off the officers that used their weapons to defend themselves in that instance? John Adams, who also had a huge role in the founding of the country and, of course, in the writing of the Constitution. It's just, I think it's a little bit ironic that even in all times, you'll have people in authority being challenged by people that are not in authority, and then it crosses lines, and then there's bloodshed, and it's a horrible thing. But to be honest with you, they drew this country into a civil war of it, and I honestly think that's what they're trying to do in Minnesota. They're trying to get a provocative action. It's an old tactic. It's nothing new. I mean, these actions are in the Bible, old history lessons of things that happen like this. They need a moment. They need a martyr. They've tried to make one out of these last two. Now, for Trump's team, they're working on de-escalation, and some of that is happening. We're now seeing the state police step up in Minnesota, and that's helpful because the tactics are still there. The ICE is still going door to door and making the apprehensions, but things are a little different today, and we'll try to explore a little bit later as to why that is. But it's been a fascinating time, and man, we haven't even got started yet. I got Nicki Minaj hanging out with Trump today. We got kids getting free money all day long today. We got plenty to talk about. Your phone calls too. 545-9950 is the phone number. Y'all hang in here and get right on back, and we'll take care of everything. Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Stay tuned. All right, it's 224, Leland Live, Talk 99.5, Michelson Laser Vision, bringing you the show tonight. Dr. Mark Michelson and that whole crew over there ready to help you see better. Look at me. Can you see me on the camera? I don't have glasses on. I do carry, sometimes I'll carry these big chunky readers. See these things? They pretty much go with me everywhere I go because a few situations, sort of low light situations, I don't know what it is about restaurant receipts and that light and the printing on those things. I have trouble seeing those. And sometimes just for too much internet use. I have little blue filters on here that I think kind of help a little bit. But for the most part, I'm looking at all these devices. I'm 2015, and everything beyond about this far from my face is just crystal clear. And it's been that way for 7 years. And I wouldn't be seeing like that. I wouldn't be seeing like that without the miracle of LASIK. I'd look like this all the time. AJ, I'd be walking around with my 4 eyes on like this right here all the time. Or some old dirty contacts. You know what I mean? This is the advantage of having the TV cameras in the studio now. I can do some things. You know, Michelson and Dr. Mark Michelson did my surgery. And since then, Dr. Jennifer Michelson's taken care of me. These guys freed me of that. If you're in glasses or contacts right now, you really do owe it to yourself to see if that would be right for you to get LASIK. And again, I always mention this, the procedure has just evolved in the time span since I got my procedure. They've got this new Contura laser guided system. Sounds like a military thing, but it really is sophisticated, and that wasn't available in those days. And back then people got turned down for LASIK because this equipment wasn't available. And you can leave it, of course, to Michelson to be the first to put it online. They used to be the only practice in the state that even had this system, and they may still be. I don't know. I just know that this is where I would send you, because I know, forget the technology and all that. They're just the best folks. They really are. Dr. Michelson is our neighbor and our friend and a pioneer and a legend in that field. Other people come and study the way they do things at Michelson, and we're lucky to have them. And Dr. Jennifer just, she's following in her dad's footsteps and doing the surgeries too. And that practice is in great hands. It's MichelsonLaserVision.com, downtown UAB Highlands, MichelsonLaserVision.com. AJ, I saw a couple of calls down there on the screen where it looked like we might have some traffic boo-boos or something. What was going on with that? Did they tell you, or did they?
Yeah, so let me turn my
Let's do the AJ cam. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend AJ right here in his own little box. There he is.
All right, so basically they were saying some traffic off of 459. There was a 18-wheeler blocking all 3 lanes.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So look out for that. Here we go with all that. Yeah, and there was still some icy patches around this morning, but I think today's warmth, and it did feel good. I was actually outside for a little while today doing some outdoor projects while we can. I don't want to be anywhere outside after Friday night. But yeah, I was out there in shorts for a little while. And I had a warm jacket on, but sometimes I'll wear shorts. AJ, I'll walk around and wear shorts.
Yeah. I had to run some errands this morning. I went to go see our buddies Obi and Jim Moore. I had to get my oil change. And then, shout out to Carl Thrasher. He listens to the show too. So
yeah.
So
okay.
Shout out to them.
Well, why are we shouting them? What are they doing for you over it?
No. Nobody's doing anything.
No, I think I got lost in your story. Why are we shouting at them?
Because
I want to back up your shout out.
Yeah. Well, no, I went there because I was looking at something for my car, and I got a chance to actually talk to Obi. I was like, hey, I'm looking for like a fender or some stuff, and he sent me down to this body shop, and I was talking to the owner. We were just having a chat, and just a really a very gentle guy. And we were just sitting there talking, and then I was like, "Oh," I said, "Do you listen to the radio?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I was like, what station you listen to?" He's like, "Well, what station you work at?" I was like, "Well, just tell me. You might be surprised." He's like, "Oh, I listen to 995." I was like, "Yeah, well, I'm AJ. I don't lead a lot." Oh, then yeah, it was like that. So
every now and then you get that. I caught that last night. You don't expect some of these younger kids to be listening, but one of Jessica's young bucks came home. A friend brought him home last night. They're close to driving age, so. A buddy brought him home. It turned out the kid listened to the show. He and his whole family. I said, "What?" I think he was impressed because he just thinks I'm some dorky guy around the house. But he's like, and I am clearly. But he was like, "Hey, he listens to your show." He's like, "People actually listen to you. How about that?" So yeah, invite him on in. I was sitting in my PJs. I said, maybe you shouldn't invite him in right now. But kind of breaks up the whole imagery, I guess. All right, y'all. Man, we got real serious stuff to get into, and we're going to do that too. Let's do our bottom of the hour break. I got to brag on Marco Rubio today. It's been a while since I've seen anyone testify before Congress that was just that poised and together. I'm telling you, I watched him today, and it was making I'll have to flip a coin between him and J.D. Vance. At some point, one of these two are going to pull ahead of the other, or they're going to team up and pick the ticket themselves or whatever. But unless there are drastic changes in this country in the next 3 years, these two are going to make one heck of a ticket. I don't know how the rest of the country sees it, but this old boy down here in Alabama really, really impressed with Marco Rubio. And I haven't always been the biggest fan of his. We'll talk about him in a minute and anything else. Your phone calls too. Lively show today. Breaking news when we get it. This is Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Y'all hang on. Man, we are all the way live tonight. Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Boy, if you need a roof, and I feel bad for you if you're in the position to have to get a roof. That's just something nobody wants to pay for. Oh, what a nervous time, because everything about it can be expensive. It really can. Whether it's a full replacement because it's just time, they do have a lifespan, or suddenly you got this emergency, and boy, if you got water coming in and roof damage, you gotta get on it in a hurry. Don't be in a rush and get one of these fly by nights, especially after a storm. There are these trolls that'll just show up in your neighborhood and tell you they can do your roof for free and get you filed in a claim. Just don't do it in a shortcut way. One, you want to make sure the job's done right, but two, you don't want to get sideways with your insurance company. Some of these folks will take half your money and disappear. You need to work with Greg Nelson at Storm Restoration Roofing. Greg's one of us. Been calling the show for years and years. We call him Greg from Pell City. But he's our neighbor. He lives in Pell City. He's been at this for going on 30 years. Most of his family, he's got 10 kids, and a lot of them are already involved in the business in different capacities. And that's the kind of business you can trust, with the family name and pride goes into everything they do, and they've been taught by the best to do things right. Greg is totally proficient at helping you with those claims. And here comes the money part. He's got finance companies that can help you. If you wind up with a big fat deductible that's just coming out of nowhere, because let's be real, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't even know what mine is either. If I were to have a claim and have to file my deductible, I know I could call my agent and find out. But the worst time to find out is when there's a tree on your house or something else has gone wrong. So, but if you do get in that situation, these companies can take care of that portion, so you're not having to come immediately out of pocket, and then he can get on it very, very quickly. So he'll work with you on the claims with the adjusters on the installation, making sure it's right, and do so in a and they just clean up after themselves. You'll never know they're there. They also have a roof cleaning portion of the business where they can come and do this low pressure roof cleaning that's just amazing. Y'all, it's Greg Nelson. He goes by a phone number, and I tell you every night when we talk about him, stick this number somewhere. You may not need a roof right now. You're like me. I'm good to go. But when I'm not, I want to know where this number is. Luckily, I've got it memorized. It's 205-542-3531, 205-542-3531, Storm Restoration Roofing. All right, let's go to Rubio, and let me take this on for just a little bit, because there's the imagery of it. There's his the way he carries himself nowadays. He is, I mean, if I have to go way back, I remember shows when he was running for president years ago. I guess that would have been 2012. I don't know. He was running one time, and I gave him a hard time. This senator out of Florida, kind of too big for his britches. AJ, I was getting on him for wearing zipper boots. Do you remember that? He got caught with these little Manzi boots on. And the funny thing is, I think I have on zipper boots right now. But anyway, but he has grown in this role, and I never would have thought about him in the role of Secretary of State. But this guy with his sometimes Senate experience does build into a body of knowledge about world events, and he's such a command of it. So, yeah, typically, if you watched any of the hearing today, the left-wing senators and the Democrats tried to get at Rubio and get indignant with him, and it did not go well. But it didn't get too nasty because I think they knew better. It was weird to me. He came in with such an air of competence and credibility that they knew better than to just cheap shot him, and they weren't going to get the better of him in a debate. So they didn't. They couldn't score any points with him on the subjects, and the subjects he had such a command over. There was no gotcha about anything. He understands the general policy. He's in alignment with his president. He doesn't look like he's serving his own agenda. The guy's wearing 15 hats in the administration. He's doing multiple jobs at managing things because of his competence. It's competence and confidence, but it's a quiet confidence that I was watching Rubio display today. Here's when I knew he was doing a good job in the hearing. When I prep for the show, I'm ADD. I mean, I have to be. So if there's a hearing going on, I can't just sit and watch a hearing. I've got to be also reading and looking stuff up, corresponding. You got to be doing multiple things all day long, but keep that news flow going and gather these facts in your head and put them down in your notes as you go through a day, getting prepared for a show like this. Well, sometimes I try to multitask, and with the cold weather, I'm on the treadmill nowadays. So I'm up trying to get my exercise this morning, and Rubio's on, and I'm on the treadmill. I'm just walking. I got transfixed by the hearing. I turned everything else off and just watched it. It was like back in the day when it was the Iran-Contra hearings or something. And it wasn't anything groundbreaking. It was just over our operations in Venezuela. But I was learning, listening to the guy talk about our philosophy, our position in the world, the real threat that was there, even though I thought I had a pretty good command of that stuff prior to the Maduro raid, what Maduro was really up to and how dangerous that country had become to us, with our adversaries having beachheads, including the Russians, the Iranians, and the Chinese, all having their main point of operations in this hemisphere in Venezuela. They were absolutely had a base camp there to compete with us and threaten us and do whatever they were planning. And Trump took that piece off the chessboard by authorizing this move. This raid took that one puzzle piece out of the way. And now there's hope not only for Venezuela, but our hemisphere is better off and our country's better off. And they did so without going to war, despite the histrionics after the event. Remember how it was, we're going to war with Venezuela. We did that so they didn't have to descend into a civil war. One of the other things he pointed out today, and we think about a lot of these countries as always needing our money and our assistance. Venezuela doesn't need our money. They've got their own money. They're a very wealthy nation in terms of resources, but they've been robbed by these people. They've been robbed by the Maduro regime and the other bad world actors, and they need competence back. They need a management system. They need to be able to get the oil out of the ground. He even described a system where, based on the Treasury Department here in America, American companies are going to have to basically get a license to go down and do business in Venezuela. That way we have some input, and we're not going to just exploit them with some of the capitalist corporations that would, on one hand, defy Trump and fund his opponents, but then want to take advantage of the newfound situation in Venezuela because of the courageousness of this administration. It was utterly fascinating. And now to the politics of it. And I hinted around about this for a few seconds before the last break. I really like this guy. He's still young. I'm sure he's younger than me. But just like Vance, they are of a different generation of leadership. They seem to be solid people. I've never heard of personal scandal with either one of these guys, other than they try to manufacture stuff on J.D. Vance because they think he's the heir apparent. Now, when you poll these two this far out, and right now that can't even be focused on, we've got the midterms. But when you poll them, J.D. Vance clearly being the vice president is far ahead in the polling. But I think it's pretty amazing at a time where I had given up on a lot of Republicans and become so cynical about whether that party would ever stand up and do the things it claimed it would do. Remember, I was one of them. I was one of their spokespeople years ago, and I was all in. I was on the team, but I got a little jaded by some of the lack of fight and character amongst some of these people because these are supposed to be the good guys. And just because they're fighting the bad guys didn't always make them good guys, put it that way. But here comes, and then suddenly out of nowhere, Trump has picked this team of very talented people around him, Pam Bondi notwithstanding, that really do display the kind of honor and true leadership that I think maybe some people still think is corny nowadays, but you can't overrate competence. I mean, just look at Gavin Newsom and whoever the front runners are on the other side. It's incompetence. I don't know if there's ever been a more incompetent governor than Tim Walz. I mean, head to toe, everything about the man. From birth, this guy's been a goober, and somehow he matriculates into the governor's office, and now he is a problem for the country because of both his arrogance and his incompetence. And there are plenty of Republicans that fit the same mold that somehow get into positions of greatness. But I watched Rubio today thinking I'd be totally comfortable with him if he was the nominee. Now, here's the caveat. All of these people have let me down at some point when I get too invested in thinking they're going to do right, because eventually they'll cross a line, or it's not just one or two bad votes. I can look past that. I've matured to the point where you're not going to get 100% out of any of them, but you just want, I think what I'm looking at is you want somebody that gets it. If Trump's going to have a replacement, they've got to have a couple of talent sets, and it's not a good stump speech. It's that they get it. They on levels of policy and to the defense of this nation, that's first. And they're competent about it. And if you know where you are, if you know what your philosophy is, you understand history, you know where you stand, you can take all comers and you can beat them. Reagan taught us that in the 80s. And I got a sense, also being of Cuban heritage, that's where Rubio comes from. He's coming from that world that we all knew, that a whole generation now that are out there trying to make it in this country never knew. It's been squandered, and they don't think it exists anymore. And leaders like this could hearken us back to a time when we were strong and peaceful and prosperous. And that has to continue. The 3 years that Trump has left are not going to be enough. These reforms, unless enacted and codified by the United States Congress, and even that can be reversed if the composition of Congress changes. We're in a very tenuous time over all this. But back to, can't believe I'm even considering the presidential election, but Rubio made me very comfortable today that he has matured into that post. And if it's not JD, and I like him for different reasons, but these two, can you imagine these two as a 1-2 punch, and what that would say for the country? Whether they be electable with yahoos and uninformed people, it stuns me how little some people actually know about world events. I'm continually amazed at people I personally know that just don't know what's going on. So whether there's an appeal to that kind of folks or not, I don't know. I just know he'd be a good leader. If he got in the role, he would be an excellent president. And I was thoroughly impressed with his presentation today. And honestly, not to belabor too much, but I felt like I learned something. And that's always good, because so much noise. There's so much noise, and I've got this filter because I've heard generally, there's not a line I hear politicians say I haven't heard before. And maybe that's just part of being older and being around it for so long. Almost everything that comes out of their mouths, every one of them, I've heard it before. There's nothing new. It's trite phrases and the same complaints and the same policy solutions, especially with the Republicans that they really won't fight for when they get a chance. It's the same pitch, and it's exhausting. But every now and then there's a breakthrough, and there's somebody that sounds like, yeah, that's correct. That's what we need to be doing. And you get a sense they actually believe what they're saying. That's rare. That's rare in this modern time of modern American politics. That's just a fact. All right, so there's my little Rubio rant. Do with that what you will. We'll see how he plays out over the next 3 years. EcoView Windows and Doors, also another great sponsor here on the show. As we get into this cold weather this weekend, I'm telling you, if your house is fighting, if the windows in your house are fighting against your furnace, and that happens, if you got leaky single pane windows, they're costing you money. They are absolutely, all that heat you're trying to generate is going right out the window. It's going to be so cold this weekend. We had a little situation the other day. We got this little doggy door, right? And I thought about EcoView when this happened. So the dogs can kind of come and go. And the door didn't quite close. I mean, it wasn't even an 1/8 of an inch gap in the little dog flap where the magnet didn't catch. And my wife could feel the draft. She was sitting on the couch. She goes, "Is there a draft in here?" And it was that little tiny hole. That's how cold it was outside. It was just defeating all the heat in the living room from that little door. Now think about, aggregate that over all your windows where the heat is seeping out and you got that heat exchange going on. You're losing money and you're not comfortable. So if you need new windows, go to EcoView. They've got the best products. They can match your house with any kind of architectural style. Becky Jackson, she just set out to make the best window and door company anywhere around, and they've done it. They've got the best installers. They hire good people. They really do believe in their product. They've got that 35% guarantee on your heating and cooling bills. Talk to her about how that works. But they say, look, they can save you 35% over whatever you paid over the last 12 months. You got to average the whole year and get all the 4 seasons in. But let them talk to you about it. There's significant savings in it. Could be some tax advantages too. Check on your return or with your tax preparer and figure out if that's the case. But it's just a wise investment. Smart to invest in your home anyway. Make it look good. Make it the envy of the block with ecoviewwindows.com. ECO, ecoviewwindows.com. Back here in just a minute. Leland Live, Talk 99.5. All right, y'all, back here leading live. Hey, Jay, for folks that come back from the breaks that are on the YouTube channel, they can't hear the music, right? I guess they can't hear the music. They can't. If you see me breaking it off, there's actually music playing. I'm not just doing that. There's music.
Yeah, they
playing in the background.
Yeah, they cannot hear you.
So they just see a wide shot, and I'm over here just getting funky because I've started to stand more during the show, and I can't help but wiggle and move around.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it just happens. All right, let's take a call. I appreciate all the calls tonight too. Ty is on a cell phone. What's up, Ty?
Hey, thank you for taking my call, Leland.
Yeah, man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good deal. I live in Pelham off of Highway 11, and there's a new Presbyterian church shut down over 2 years ago, and there's a Hazian Center, which is a Muslim school that's located in this place. There's never anybody there. It's been there for 4 months. The other night I dropped by, the parking lot is completely dark, no backup lights, no emergency exit lights, and the next night it's back on. But there's something fishy going on around here. Is there an investigative journalist who I can contact to take a look at this?
So let me make sure I got this whole story straight. There's a Muslim school, and you're saying, but there's no activity. It's just declared that, and there's no activity.
Correct.
Okay. Well, our friends over at 1819 love to dig into, especially that subject where there's this, all these repeated attempts. And it's okay for people to set up a school, but what we're learning in several states, there's a story brewing out of California right now that's set up just like the Somali model, where the Somalians are stealing tax money through fake schools and charities. And well, what I'm saying is,
getting to in a roundabout way.
well, it's in California, it's a whole different country. I think there were some people connected to Russia doing the same thing. So you got foreigners from all over the world. It's not about race. It's just different countries that are coming and taking advantage of a very haphazard system of granting to these fake causes. They found a Russian building. I think these were medical services. They had 44 businesses in one empty building that didn't do any activity. And so I don't know if this is suspicious or not. I guess you see a sign out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I've gone to their website, and they show scheduling of activities and whatnot, but there's never any kids there. There's
that's suspicious.
There. Most I've seen is 7 cars there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know I don't have the time and resources to go dig it up myself, but I know people who do. And based on the pattern of stories we're hearing around the country, maybe there's something to that. Maybe not. Maybe they just got a different schedule, or everybody's doing Ramadan right now. I don't know what goes on. There may be a legitimate excuse for the lack of activity, or maybe you're just passing at the wrong time every day.
Maybe.
But that's exactly what we're finding all over Minnesota. We're finding it in Maine. We're finding it in Illinois near Chicago. We're starting to find these situations in California, where you've got absolutely fake entities getting millions and billions of dollars from us. And these, they never have to prove they exist or even there. And it's just Americans have to demonstrate this stuff. If you're in a business that's regulated, you have obligations to show proof that you're in business. Or even if you get, say, a home appraisal, they're going to come look, make sure the house is there, right? That's just verification in a lot of situations that have oversight. And so, considering the graft and corruption that's been going on, it's not going to surprise me that Alabama has a case or two as well.
Shock, I tell you.
All right. Thank you, Ty. Are you saying Meemaw's not on the ball, keeping up with all this stuff? Are you saying that? I'm just kidding.
I'm not saying anything.
I'm being mean right now. I'm being mean. Thank you, buddy.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Somebody send somebody over there to Pale City and see if that school is legitimate. If my friend April Marie over at 1819 is listening, this might be something to get you a headline. Look, it's not fair because of let's just be real. It's not fair to pick on people because it's got Islam or Muslim or whatever on the outside. It's not. But pattern recognition is survival. Okay. Some people, we've learned to quit. There's some phrases. Am I feeling philosophical right now? There's some phrases in our lives that we've been conditioned to start to quit using, and they've sort of flipped the script on us, like the word judgment. How many times do you hear people go, well, I'm not here to judge, but And I do get what they're saying when people say that. They're trying not to be condescending or whatever, but as if casting judgment and having a set of convictions and having an opinion on something is somehow not acceptable. And whereas we came from a society that clearly had mores and values, and judgment kept things in line. Sometimes exactly what we need is judgment. I think sometimes we're losing our judgment, and we need more of it. We need people to be firm in their convictions and stand for their communities and look out for things. And then there's the stereotyping thing, which I kind of just fell into too, trying to be sensitive about. I don't know what the story's about, so it's hard for me to gather too many facts standing here on the radio. But we have this knee-jerk sensitivity thing that we do going, well, I don't know. But, sometimes you need to, animals and anybody that survives uses pattern recognition to start to build experience. It's how you build an intelligence. You see something once, it could be an incident. You can let it go. You see it again and you're thinking, well, I've seen that before. That's alarming, especially if it's danger or something that's wrong. Then you see it again and again and again, and you're conditioned to say, well, I'm not supposed to notice that because I'd be casting judgment, or I'd be stereotyping, or I'd be doing some of these insensitive things. Nobody wants to be seen as mean, right? We're all so nice now. Are we really? And sometimes casting your attention towards something that looks suspicious is how we survive. It's how we get along in the world. It's what keeps you out of danger. Like I said, you watch an animal show. They know who belongs in their flock and who doesn't. They know when there's a threat of something from the outside and external that could eat their babies, and they react to that. It's fight or flight, and it's how everything survives. And for us to lose that defense mechanism out of hypersensitivity over just the sheer notion, you can be both polite and you can be courteous, but you can also be wise and discerning. And you can use your judgment to decide what's good and what's bad for you or anybody around you. And nobody has to follow you in that vein, but to lose your own judgment and to not look at these things and at least ask questions. I think that's where we're going wildly wrong in this country right now. We're hiding behind some weakness, and that's what brings, in the history of the Romans and other civilizations, that brings people to their knees when they lose the ability to discern societies. Jack is on a cell phone. We can get another call in here. What's up, Jack?
I was going to say that last guy's story made me think of this. I was a police officer for the city of Anderson, and there's a Muslim school up there on the east side. And right across the street, the adjacent street that parallels it is Bacon Street.
Hey, Jack, are you on a speakerphone? I think you made a funny, and I wasn't quite sure I heard you. Did you say something about Bacon Street? Is that what he said, AJ?
Yes, sir.
Oh, he's off the cell phone. Yeah. Speakerphone's a no-no on the show.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, buddy.
The adjacent street right across from the Muslim school is called Bacon Street.
Well, that happens. Is that in Anniston? You said it's in Anniston?
Yes, sir. It's in Anniston.
I get the irony. Thank you, Jack. Jack, with a little bit of irony. My mom lives near a street. She's on a very fine street in her hometown, but the street that goes to her street, and I see it every time I go there, is Guano, which I'm pretty certain is bat. Am I wrong? There's a Guano Street in my hometown. Who named a street Bat Squeeze, right?
Maybe because there was a lot of either there was a lot of bats or there were a lot of bat crazy people out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and nowadays I could understand it, but it's a tiny little street, and there's only a couple houses on it, and it's Guano Street. I don't even think they knew what the name of it was. I think they just named it that. We need something that sounds exotic. All right, y'all. Axiom Tax Resolution Group, 205tax.com. That's my man, Perry Cronin. I started getting some of my first, look at this. Starting to get my tax. See, if you're looking on the camera, you can see all this stuff. Getting my tax forms in the mail. I opened one up here in the studio yesterday. Here we go with that. It's filing season, and if you're dreading filing season this year because you owe the IRS a pile, and that can happen so quickly, y'all reach out to Perry and let him help you get settled and get that off your back and breathe again. You know, the IRS, they're not as aggressive under Trump as they have been. Some of them have been reassigned, but they're still the most vicious collection agency in the world, and they come at you with a confusing tax code, and it's easy to get sideways. Let Perry help. There's not an expert in this country that knows more than him, and he is local, can do this in a very personal way, face-to-face. It's Axiom Tax Resolution Group, 205tax.com, 205tax.com. The local phone number is 872-1100. Axiom Tax Resolution Group. Back after this. Y'all stay tuned. 1819 News.